Amanda, what have you got to say to your victim?
Not a lot.
Aren't you sorry?
No, I never done it.
So we've obviously had an incident reported to us tonight, and I got sufficient information from that incident to arrest you on suspicion of neglect. It's midnight on the 16th of March 2021. You're under arrest on suspicion of neglect.
Right.
You don't have to say anything. It may harm your defence if you don't mention when questioned, something which may later lie in court. Anything you do say may be given in evidence. Necessity for your arrest is to protect a vulnerable person
Right.
and to conduct a thorough investigation, and
Okay.
it being prompt and effective. Okay, have you got any questions at this time?
What? No. Not
Okay.
At the moment.
Absolutely filthy bedding. Right. No telephone numbers hidden under the pillow.
Yeah, so the victim was treated horrendously over the 20 years that she was in the address. While she was there, she was assaulted numerous times. She had her head shaved, her hair forcibly cut. All she wanted to have was long hair, so she was constantly having her hair cut short while she's in the address. She wasn't fed properly. She was eating probably or being fed one meal a day. There were numerous assaults throughout the course of the period of time that she was in the address. So she was pushed down the stairs, she was hit with a broom, she had washing up liquid put in her mouth, so she was treated really badly while she was in the address. So the victim lived in extremely poor conditions, and that was for the whole time, the whole 20 years while she was in the address. She hardly left the address while she was there, probably only left the address on a handful of occasions. And she was just used to do lots of menial tasks around the house, so she'd be constantly on her hands and knees, she'd be sweeping up, she would be cleaning the address, she'd be getting up early to ensure that the kids in the address, so Miss Wixon's children were got ready for school and they were bathed, and she would do lots of menial tasks around the house.
I mean, we heard in court that she actually had calluses on her feet and ankles as a result of hours and hours and hours of scrubbing. I mean, just give me a sense of just how hard she had to work.
Yeah, so we believe she did a massive amount of work while she was there. She was constantly on hands and knees, constantly sweeping up with a dustpan and brush. She wasn't allowed to use a hoover, so she had to do all those tasks sort of by hand. So she was using a dustpan and brush for a considerable period of time.
Can you give me a sense about sort of the damage to her body, you know, as a result of the hard work?
Yeah, so when she was rescued from the address, she went and saw a doctor. So she was malnourished. She had scars on her lips, and she had calluses on her feet from the amount of time she spent on her hands and knees cleaning. Yeah, so when the police arrived, there's body-worn video footage that covers the address, and our scenes of crime have since been in there and taken photographs of the property. The whole property was in extremely poor conditions. Many of the walls had mould on them, didn't have any paint. They were just sort of back to the bare plaster, and the general state of the property was extremely poor.
But tell us about how she was kept. What was her condition?
Yeah, so the doors were locked in the property, and effectively the control that Mrs Wixon had over the victim meant that she hardly left the property. Probably, like I say, on a handful of occasions she only left the property, and quite a lot of that was in the sort of the early stages when she was living at the address. And as time went on, she left the property less and less. And certainly not very often in the last few years, if not longer.
But she said she wanted to go out. I mean, some of her last messages said, I want to go out. You know, she didn't want to be. Was she locked in?
The doors were locked from time to time. So as well as there being the physical sort of lock of the doors, there was the emotional and physical control that Mrs Wixon held over the victim.
Tell me about her teeth and the lack of care in terms of going to the doctors, going to the dentist. Tell me a bit about that.
Yeah, so in the 20 plus years that the victim was in the address, she didn't go to the doctors, she didn't go to the dentist. This has caused all of her teeth to fall out. And when she went to the dentist, the dentist commented on how much pain she would have been throughout that period of time.
Did her teeth come out because they were knocked out through violence or just through neglect?
I think a bit of both. I think she was definitely assaulted. She was hit with a broom, and she was hit in the mouth. And then the sort of lack of dental hygiene and lack of visits to the dentist meant that her teeth had fallen out.
But there was a visit to the benefits so that she could claim benefits. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so probably in the late 90s, Mrs Wixon took the victim to the benefits office in Gloucester, and from that point onwards, the victim's benefits were paid into Mrs Wixon's bank accounts.
And how much does that accrue to?
Unfortunately, the benefits records that we were able to obtain didn't go back past 2016, but from 2016 to 2021, Miss Wixon received over £33,000 in the victim's benefits. And
do you assume that's a lot more? Was it probably much more than that?
Yes, from the late 90s forward to 2016, I imagine it was a considerable sum of money.
So tell me a little bit about the circumstances that led up to her escaping, getting the phone. Now, we heard in court she was very scared of having a phone because in the past she'd been punished.
Yeah, so the victim obtained a phone from a family member previously, and when Miss Wixon found that she had that phone, she was assaulted with that mobile phone, and that phone was destroyed. The victim was able to obtain a phone from a family member, and she was able to communicate with some of Miss Wixon's elder children that have left the address, and from that they've phoned the police and made us aware of what was taking place. Yeah, so when the police arrived, the victim was seen by police officers on entering the address. The victim had her head held down. It was clear that she was extremely scared about what had taken place and what was going to happen. She had short hair. She looked extremely malnourished. She was in sort of scruffy, untidy clothes, and she looked particularly unkept.
Did she have bruises?
She did have bruises. You couldn't see those initially, but she did have bruises on her arms, which were noted by the police officers. So Mrs Wixon was in the address, and once the officers had made their initial assessment, she was arrested a short time after that, and the victim was taken to hospital to receive some medical attention. The victim was subject to a large amount of abuse while she was in the address for over 20 years. She was assaulted on numerous occasions throughout her period in the address. She was hit with items such as a broom. She was pushed down the stairs. She had items thrown at her. She was hit with a mobile phone. She had her head put down the toilet, and she also had her head shaved and her hair forcibly cut. And all that she wanted to have was long hair.
In all your years of working in the police, have you ever come across a case like this? What was your reaction?
I've not come across a case like this, and it's clear that it's had a massive impact on the victim. The victim's now doing extremely well. She's in a shared lives placement, so she's being looked after by effectively a foster mother, and she's doing really well now. She's gone back to college. She's studying maths and English. She's been on holidays abroad, and she's also playing for a local football team, which she really enjoys. So she's doing really well now.